Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be discussing about my preview for the USMNT versus Paraguay matchup. So let's start off with the video. The USMNT will play their first game of the November camp against Paraguay tomorrow, which will be a pretty interesting game to watch. I'll talk about some factors about both teams, and I'll talk about my predictions for this game. So yeah, let's start off with the video. But before we continue, I'd like to tell you guys to like and subscribe, because it is very important that you guys like and subscribe so you guys can never miss another video. And to also not to forget to follow me on X and on TikTok. There will be more content on those pages for you guys. So let's continue with the video. Let's talk first a little bit about Paraguay. Paraguay, after the Copa America, they didn't have much hope going into World Cup qualifying, because they weren't just bad in the Copa America like the US, they were horrible during the Copa America. They lost all three of their games. They lost to Colombia, which they made it the final, which can be understandable, but they also lost to a Brazil side. They didn't just lose, they got destroyed by a Brazil side that were pretty disappointing during that edition of the Copa America. And they also lost to Costa Rica, and we all know Costa Rica has not been the same national team since 2014. So those are three pretty disappointing losses for Paraguay, and a very disappointing campaign for Paraguay during the Copa America. So going into World Cup qualifying, they didn't have much hope, but then they got a new manager. Gustavo Alfaro has managed to turn the tables for Paraguay, and Paraguay has looked like a different national team. Players to watch for Paraguay, of course, you're going to have to mention the center backs. Omar Alderete and Gustavo Gomez are going to be rock solid for that Paraguay defense. For a defense that was the second best during World Cup qualifying in South America. So that says a lot about their defense, and their defense is led by those two center backs. Omar Alderete plays for Sunderland in the Premier League, and Gustavo Gomez plays in Palmeiras for Brazil, and he's probably seen by a lot of South American fans as the best center back in South America. So, yeah, the defense is going to be rock solid for Paraguay, and it's going to be very difficult to create chances. And if you guys are MLS fans, you guys should be familiar with Andres Cubas from Vancouver Whitecaps and Brian Ojeda from RSL. But two players that a lot of us should be familiar with, who were sold to the Premier League for a lot of money. Diego Gomez, who was sold to Brighton last season for a lot of money. He was a very good midfielder for Inter Miami, but a player to watch offensively for this Paraguay side, although they're pretty poor offensively. But the player to watch offensively is Miguel Almiron from Atlanta United. He just came back from Newcastle and had some pretty decent seasons. But when he was sold to Newcastle, he was sold for a record sum of money. So he's going to be the player to watch offensively for this Paraguay side. I know for Miguel Almiron, this wasn't a very good season for him in MLS back with Atlanta United, but Tata Martino is coming back to the side, and I think he should be able to turn around the tables over there for them. So, although this team is very poor offensively, but defensively, they are as rock solid as they could get. Now going with the Stars and Stripes, Podge is going into camp without a lot of star players. Players like Christian Pulisic, Anthony Robinson, and Chris Richards are out due to injury. Also, Tyler Adams, who was part of the original roster, he's going to have to miss out because they had like a collision during a game during the weekend with Bournemouth, which is very unfortunate. So you can understand those absences, but something I cannot understand is leaving a player like Weston McKennie out. I know you can say like he has a new manager at Juve, but like I cannot understand this, because like you have this new system. The players have to get accustomed to this new system. They have to know this new system that you're using. So I do not know why you're doing this. Why you're leaving a player like Weston McKennie home, who is going to be very important for the national team for this upcoming summer. I do not understand it. And who replaced Tyler Adams? Also, Sean Zawadski also has to go home due to injury, but who replaced Tyler Adams? Tim fucking Tillman, not Malik Tillman, but Tim Tillman. his brother that plays for LAFC, who's a bang average MLS midfielder. I do not understand Poch. Like, you could have brought a player like Brian Gutierrez, Owen Wolf. If you're gonna bring somebody from MLS, you should bring at least one of those two. But like, bringing in Tim Tillman, just like a bang average MLS player, like, I do not understand it. But players to watch for this new USMT side that they're using this new system, I do have to say Mark McKenzie. Mark McKenzie, he's gonna have his chance to be the starter for this camp. Last camp, Podge was talking in a press conference that he plans to use him like in that Cuti Romero role. So this is gonna be a huge camp for Mark McKenzie, especially with Chris Richards out. If he wants to be that starter as the middle center back and shift Chris Richards out to the right as that right center back, this is gonna be his chance. He has to impress Poch. And also another player to watch is Sergio Dest. With this new system, Sergio Dest is going to get freed up offensively. He's not going to have to focus much defensively. So, offensively, he's going to be going off. And those little minutes I saw of him against Japan, I was impressed. So, a player to watch during this camp is certainly Sergio Dest. And with the attack, Gio Reyna is coming back to this camp. I do not know if Poch will use him because Poch said he doesn't plan to use Gio much, but he's going to be a player to watch because Gio, you can say whatever about his club form, but when he puts on that national team jersey, he means business. So I do think he's going to be a player to watch. And obviously, Froland Balogun, Ballo has been the best player during these fall friendlies. Now let's go with my ideal starting 11 for the USMT for this game. I think Matt Freese should be starting in goal. Matt Freese during the Gold Cup and after the Gold Cup has been a pretty solid goalkeeper outside of a few mistakes. So I think he should continue to be the starter unless he obviously gets hurt. Then the three center backs, I think it has to be Tim Ream, Mark McKenzie, and Joe Scally. Mark McKenzie, again, huge opportunity for him. Joe Scally is coming back with the national team, and I think Poch will use him as a center back because even though when he played right back during the previous system, he usually shifted in as a right back, as a center back, I mean, to help out with the build out. So I think he'll be playing as a center back in this system. Then the midfielders, Aiden Morris and Tanner Tessman. Like Christian Roldan, like I know he played pretty good against Australia, but defensively, I think he's too huge of a liability. So I think these two should be the starters at midfielder. And then John Tolkien, I think he should be starting as that left wing back. Like, even though Max Arfson, he has that extra protection with that extra center back, I do think he's still that much of a liability defensively. Like, he's just that much of a weakness. So I'd rather prefer to see John Tolkien to see what he could do if I was Poch. Sergio Dest obviously has to start. Best option we have over there. Then Gio and Luna at the 10, and then Foreign Balogun as the 9. Now let's go with my predictions for this game. I think this is going to be a very difficult game for the national team for two reasons. One, Paraguay is very solid defensively, and especially without a lot of attacking options like Pulisic, Malik Tillman, Tim Weah, Anthony Robinson. There's going to be much more difficulty for this national team to open up Paraguay to create a lot of big chances. And number two, with this new system, and obviously the players are getting accustomed to it, there's at least been one huge error that has led to goal with this new system. And during the October camp in each game, respectively, an error from Chris Richards led to the Ecuador goal, and then an error from both Christian Roldan and James Sands led to the Australia goal. So I think the USMT, I don't think they'll be maintaining a clean sheet during the game. So I think this game is going to be very difficult, but I think there's enough talent for the USMT in order to pull off a win. So I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say the USMT ends up being Paraguay 2-1. So yeah, this is all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in next video.